Hello, listeners. I'm Kimberly Gossard, lead strategist here at TRAFFIK, and with me today is Christian Johnson.
Hi, Kimberly. Thanks so much for having me. It's a privilege to be here.
Thanks for being with us. So, Christian, as a fellow at UCLA Biodesign Hub and formerly as a strategist and marketer at Edwards Life Sciences, I know you and your partners are running a study on the regulation and reimbursement of medical and digital health technologies to better understand the current state of innovation in healthcare industry in the US. So now, why are regulation and reimbursement the two most important variables by which to measure innovation in this area? And why does knowing the current state of innovation really matter?
Yeah, Kimberly, that's such a fantastic question. I think it boils down to what has really been a key purpose of us launching this study. We really want to understand, what does it really require to bring a transformational medical or digital technology to patients? And fundamentally, in that whole process from concept to ultimately bringing that product to bedside to the patient, there are a lot of steps along the way. Two of those steps being the regulatory process here in the US, or reimbursement with Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, are very influential steps for innovators here in the US or abroad. Mostly it comes down to time, cost, and money. How much does it cost to bring a new innovation to patients? How much time will it take? And the last time a study ever was done to really look into addressing these core questions was over 10 years ago. And so due to a variety of reasons, we think now is a very appropriate time to do an updated look at those. And ultimately, we believe and hope that the insights that we uncover in this study will really help to establish some new benchmarks, some new insights, and really ultimately lead to aid in decision-making strategically for both innovators, but also regulators and policymakers.
So, Christian, 10 years, that is quite a long time. And I have to say, you've chosen an interesting year to conduct this study immediately after a global pandemic. Was that on purpose or just happenstance? And why now?
You know, a part of it has to do with the timing and nature of the last time really a study like this was done. As I mentioned, the last one was over 10 years ago, and we figure in the nature of it being nearly a decade, so much has just changed in the last 10 years alone. If we look at the increasing digitization of medtech, digital health wasn't a thing over 10 years ago. In fact, the smartphone had just really come to fruition right before 2010, a couple of years prior, and now thousands and thousands of mobile medical applications are developed and integrated on our phones today. And so a lot has changed. The FDA has established a new Center of Excellence for Digital Health. There's new programs and special designations with the Breakthrough Device Program. Medicare has the Medicare medical device coverage for innovative technologies that's now currently being evaluated and under review. And we'd like to understand what has been the impact of all these programs, designations, and developments to advance patient-centric innovation. But what you just raised is a really important point as well, which is the pandemic has had a substantial influence on accelerating the introduction of certain technologies, especially on the digital front, with artificial intelligence and machine learning. We've seen over 70 AI and machine learning based products just come to market in the last couple of years, but just alone in the last year, we've seen a substantial introduction of new products that have received breakthrough device designation. And that has largely been driven by a need for telemedicine, remote patient monitoring, clinical workforce, and decision-making, all as a response to the pandemic itself. So I don't know that I necessarily would say that the pandemic directly influenced our decision to do the study, but it certainly, I think, elevates an important reason to take another look at what has changed and what does this really mean looking forward for innovators and regulators in the United States.
I'm curious to know, do you think, or I guess, how do you think the pandemic has really impacted regulation and reimbursement of both medtech and digital health innovation? Can you share with us any hypotheses you might have for how this study will pan out?
Fantastic question. I almost want to say, I think that's a core part of why we're doing this study, is to uncover some of those insights and those learnings. And while I hope I could share some golden nuggets right now and maybe give you some hypotheses, rather I look forward to seeing what the companies that participate in the study unveil. And we'll look forward to sharing that in the second half of this year. How does that sound, Kimberly?
All right, no spoilers. That's fine, Christian. Well, eagerly await the actual results. Since this study just did go live, I know my strategy team here at TRAFFIK has helped you think through some of the nuances of this study. For all of our listeners out there who may be thinking of conducting their own survey, can you share with us what your experience was like?
The first thing I would say is, at least in the experience of getting to partner with TRAFFIK, I think it's been really instrumental for us, because a privilege of leading a study out of an organization like UCLA with the access to, resources and expertise that we have in this type of environment enables us to do some of the rigor on the statistical front, some of the rigor on aspects of the design, but to have partners that we can surround ourselves with, such as TRAFFIK, who really has been at the forefront of working with a variety of organizations in industry, from payers to private to industry itself, I think lends us a special lens on the design of the survey, whether it's on a macro level, what is the right way to frame some of the key questions, to also, I would say, on a more micro level within the actual survey design, the mechanics of how we actually humanize the survey in a way that's engaging for an executive audience to participate in interviews or in the survey itself. So I think that's something I really appreciate with TRAFFIK and the expertise you've lent, is bridging both the industry expertise and the lens that you have with also the art and science of actually designing and implementing a survey too.
Thank you, Christian. I know my team, that will mean a lot to them. And I've definitely appreciated the chance and opportunity to work with you along the way in this. I think you bring up an interesting point about the behavior of survey design itself, and how you can encourage a specific audience to actually take part in a survey and participate in the way that you want them to participate without influencing their decisions or the answers that they give you. And so that kind of nuanced language and design of what questions to ask in what order and what are the actual words you use to ask those questions, those are all things that are very thought through, to make sure that you, at the end of the day, have study results that are true and are going to be impactful in the way that you want them to be. So that's, I think, definitely something, when I think about all of the different clients that we've helped with surveys in the past, that is one of the main challenges. And that was a really fun one to work with you on, because you do have such a broad audience that you're trying to get to take these surveys.
I think that's a fantastic point, because from our lens, we always knew when we set out to do this study, we wanted it to be a study that really engaged the broader innovation ecosystem, and really could be something that represents a diversity of companies and products and geographies. So we get a pulse when we ask that question, what is the current state of innovation, especially the impact of regulatory reimbursement? It really embodies truly the thought leadership from the ecosystem and the community, but to be able to actually bring that to life through language in the survey and the study itself, has been really key for having a partner like TRAFFIK to help us do. And so that's where I think I want to just reinforce what you said there, is to be able to have that partner for aiding us in achieving what is our desired purpose for this study, but then framing it in the actual language in the survey itself. So
Excellent. Was there anything surprising you learned along the way that you'd like to share?
I think the most interesting thing, and it's actually really, I don't know if it's so much a surprise, but an affirmation or an excitement about this whole experience, is when we first started designing the study, and we got to receive the advising of you and your team on really strategically thinking about the design of the study, but then actually going out and engaging a variety of stakeholders, from the different industry associations, the incubators and accelerators, a lot of the partners that we have for getting input on the design of the study. It's interesting to build a study at a time like today, where there's already so many rapid changes happening, either influenced by the pandemic or influenced by new policies forthcoming, or programs like I mentioned with the new Center for Digital Health out of the FDA. And therefore, there's a lot of, I think, shiny objects for how you could change the scope of your study. Especially when you're building in real time with all these events happening. And I think the most important thing is, amidst all that excitement, really just listening, but also staying focused to what is the core purpose of the study, what information do we need that we don't already have access to from publicly available data or from the thought leaders in our network. And so I think that's a really important lesson, is just maintaining scope, but also designing a study that best reflects the important topics and discussions of today's environment.
Yes, Christian, I can tell you, you are not alone. Scope creep is a very um, common request of surveys. It's so tempting to want to just learn one more thing, just one more thing, just one more question. Oh, we should ask them this too. They're already taking the survey. And it becomes very easy to turn what was at one point a 10-question, 10-minute survey into a hour and a half long diatribe of their entire experience with you and your brand. And so it is great that you kept your eye focused on the purpose, the true, genuine, original purpose of this survey, and were able to really condense down what you asked so that you're not wasting any survey respondents' time. You're getting all the answers you need to actually form your study and answer the questions your study was intended to answer, without requiring any participant to respond to more than they really need to for the information you require.
And especially for the audience that we're surveying and interviewing, which is an executive level audience, we really want to be responsible and respectful of their time.
Exactly. Yes. I think personally, having seen your survey, I think any CEO would or regulation entity would feel like their time was well spent on this survey, because it really does get at the core issues of what you're trying to answer. And then at the end, I believe that they will get access to your study, right? So then you're able to share those insights and they'll actually benefit from the time they donated for this.
Yep, that is right. So for anyone who participates in the study, which we're conducting through an interview process with the individuals, they will receive early access to the insights from the study. We're also sharing some preliminary insights into their specific area, whether that's their industry sector or their product category or other, just because we are grateful for their participation in what we believe will be one of the most impactful studies around regulation and reimbursement for innovation in the last decade. So
Excellent. I can't wait to see the results. I know that I had mentioned a couple of individuals that might be your target audience, but just so we're super clear and everyone listening to this podcast knows, who else should participate in your study?
yeah, so we're seeking to interview either whoever the lead regulatory expert and officer is at the company. In a small venture-backed company, that may be the CEO and co-founder themselves. For a large multinational company, that might be a regulatory officer. But from a company level, what we're targeting is a company that has at minimum one product that's regulated by CDRH, medical device or digital technology, that has received either clearance or approval in the United States from the FDA. And that's really just the primary scope right there. And if somebody feels that they have a product that fits that category from 2010 to through the end of 2020, then they're the right person for reaching out and participating in this study. And if they're interested in participating, there's a couple steps they can take. They can go to www.medtechstudy.com and sign up for an interview, or they're also welcome to reach out to learn more at info@medtechstudy.com.
Excellent. Well, there you have it, everyone. Thank you so much, Christian. It was a pleasure speaking with you today.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. It was a pleasure to be here.
We here at TRAFFIK look forward to learning the results of your study. I myself am very interested in what you learn. And then for all of our listeners out there, if you fit the description of who Christian is looking to participate in this study, please contact his team. As he had mentioned, the email address you can reach out to is info@medtechstudy.com. That's info@medtechstudy.com. Also, if you'd like to know more about TRAFFIK and our strategy services, please visit traffikhealth.com. That's TRAFFIK health.com. Thanks, everyone.